by 100 or 1050, I believe. And I'm going to fill it with black. And while we're at it, why don't we go about adding a star field? I'm just going to use a really simple method for creating a star field. I'm going to hit Control J, whoops. I'm going to hit Control J to duplicate my layer. Then I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. And around 20 to 22% you should be good. It should be, the distribution should be Gaussian, and you should have monochromatic checked. Once you've done all these things, just hit OK. And now, as you can see, it's very pixelated, and while real space might look like this, it's not too pretty. So we're going to try to reduce the noise a lot, such that it looks more like a artsy-ish type of star field. Now, as you can see, I have the levels opened up. I hit Control L to open this window. And I'm adjusting the settings to try to get a minimum amount of noise in the background while still having a decent amount of stars. Can be tricky. Alright, I think I'm going to go with that. 190 and 0.2. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to set this layer to screen. The next step would be doing our glow. Basically a giant gradient on screen. And it's got to be a multi-layer gradient. So I'm going to hide this layer down here. I'm going to get the gradient tool out. I'm going to click this, which is a circle gradient. And let's see. I'm going to peek back at my reference image quick. Alright. So it looks like I started with really dark purple. Almost pink. So pick a color like so. And just drag the gradient in whichever way. And set the layer to screen. And you might want to mess with the opacity just a bit. Alright, I think that's about all the purple we had. The rest, I believe, was more of an orangish color. So now I'm going to go about adding that orange on top of our purple. And I don't want to add too much orange, or else then I'll completely overpower the purple that I just put there. So that looks good. And again, I'm going to switch to the layer blending mode to screen. Or am I? Let me zoom in a bit more. Huh, that is interesting. I think I might just use normal. Nah, we'll just keep it at screen to make things simple. Alright, zoom out again. And grab another color. Let's use this time. And we're going to have to progressively move or make our gradient smaller and smaller. So our purple gradient was the largest. Then we had our dark orange, and now here's a slightly lighter orange. And we got to keep making it smaller each time. That will give us the best effect. lighter still. Alright, so there's that. Here's our gradient. And now, I don't know what type of recording you're seeing right now, but if you look on my screen, or if you're doing this yourself, you should notice there's a lot of ugly lines between our gradient. Now, thanks to a buddy at, I think it's nside.net, he had a useful tip for getting rid of all these ugly lines. So I'm going to highlight all my layers. I'm going to duplicate them. I'm going to merge them into a new layer. I'm going to make all the previous layers invisible. Set it to screen. And now here's the trick. Go to Filter, Blur, Smart Blur. And you increase the settings to about that, 60, 70. And hit OK. Now, you might have not been able to notice, but that did a good deal when it comes to smoothing out the lines. And now I'm just going to hit Control F repeatedly, which will keep reapplying the filter. And then I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Next, I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Surface Blur. And I'm going to use about the same settings. However, that seems to be doing some crap up there that I don't like. So I'm going to duplicate my layer just to try to save the part that's getting screwed up. I'm going to go Filter, Blur, Surface Blur. And just use that to keep smoothing out my gradient. Alright. Now, due to that, we got a big ugly line up there. So I'm going to use this gradient to try to cover that up. I'm going to erase all the parts that we're not using of this. Alright. And what do I want to do here? I don't know. I guess that'll be good enough. So now let's enable our star layer again. And as you can see, we're already starting to get a somewhat pretty image. Next, we're going to import our planet in. Figure out wherever that's hiding. Alright, here it is. Just gotta zoom out a bit. And here's our lovely gigantic planet. I'm going to hit Control G to merge it into a group. And I'm going to drag that into our scene. Alright. And it is in. And as you can see, it's quite insanely large. So I'm going to reduce the size by quite a bit. I'm going to turn it so our shadow is more in line with the light source. And I'm going to position it wherever I feel like it. Alright. That's a decent start there. Now I'm going to try to pop out the surface texture on that a bit more. First I'm going to sharpen it. And I'm going to do brightness contrast and try to bring out the contrast a bit. And then maybe... Alright, that looks good. Now I'm really not liking this blue glow around it. So I think I'm going to adjust that. Let's see, alright, it's this layer. And I'm going to get rid of that. Well, let's go back to the original. That might be it. Alright, let's just use this one here. And I'm going to make a new blur. Or not blur, glow I should say. Alright. That looks better. Again, I'm going to merge the layer. Set it to screen. And I'm going to erase out the part that should be within the shadow. Alright, now I'm going to merge the atmosphere into one layer. Set it to screen. I'm going to hit Control U on that layer. And now I'm going to try to adjust the color to something that makes a bit more sense with our atmosphere, which would preferably be a red, which I think is somewhere along the lines in there. Alright, excellent. And I'm going to adjust our texture a bit. Alright. In between an orange and a purple. I'd say that's good. Alright. Now we just need a bit better shadow right there. And so we're going to go about that by selecting our sphere, filling it with black. I have to set it underneath all of our layers. And I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur.